Finally, these have landed. Revisions to the Executive Condominium Framework, or the term we often use, cooling measures. Not our favorite topic, but I think we still have to talk about it. What are the impacts and the implications? Before we go on, hello, my name is Belle Tan. I help property owners navigate the market and avoid costly mistakes before they commit. Do like and subscribe to my YouTube channel to get regular insights and strategies to help you make better decisions. Call me or DM me if you'd like to discuss your situation and we can work through it together. First of all, let's recap what are the revisions. So, firstly, MOP has been increased from 5 years to 10 years. Buyers of new ECs will need to fulfill the MOP before they can rent out their whole unit, purchase another residential property, or sell their unit to Singaporeans and PR. New ECs will also be fully privatized after 15 years, up from the current 10 years. This means that after the 15 year, EC homeowners can sell their unit to any buyers, including foreigners. The quota and priority period for first-time home buyers will also be increased. Currently, developers must reserve 70% of the EC units for first-timer families during the first month of the project's launch date. This quota will be increased to 90% and the priority period extended to 2 years. After the 2-year period, developers can sell the remaining units to all eligible buyers, including second-time buyers. And lastly, developers will no longer be able to offer the deferred payment scheme. So DPS allows buyers to pay 20% of the purchase price upfront and the remaining 80% when the project reaches its TOP. So why are these changes needed? Minister for National Development Chee Hong Tat said the changes to the EC scheme will further support first-time home buyers and focus ECs on meeting occupation needs for home owners. In the first 4 months of 2026, the median price in PSF of new ECs was 1843, more than doubled over the past decades. And the proportion of first-time EC buyers have decreased compared to second-timers who have larger housing budgets from the proceeds of their first home. In 2020, about half of the EC buyers were first-timers, but this has dropped to between 30 to 40% in 2024 and 2025. So these new measures will apply to EC government land sale sites with tender closing dates on or after 8 May 2026. 5 upcoming ECs will not be subject to the new measures. The tender for these 5 locations closed between August 2025 and April 2026, and these are projects in Senja Close, Sembawang Road, Miltonia Close, and 2 projects in Woodlands Drive 17. These measures are the government's effort to support first-time home buyers in buying ECs for own occupation rather than speculative purpose. They also hope that this will result in developers reducing their land bids and prices of their ECs. So what are the impacts and implications? Let's break down one by one and analyze. So impact of the 10 years MOP. So currently, the MOP period is 5 years, meaning from year 0 to year 5, homeowners can rent out their unit partially, meaning room rental. Then once MOP is reached, after 5 years, year 6 to year 10, they can sell the unit to Singaporeans and PR, rent out the whole unit, and they can invest in private properties. And from year 11 onwards, once the EC privatized, they can sell the units to foreigners or companies. So with the new measures, the MOP period is extended to 10 years. So it means from year 0 to year 10, homeowners can rent out partially, and after the MOP in 10 years, year 11 to 15, they can then sell to Singaporeans, PR, rent out the whole unit, or invest in private property. And after year 16, they can sell to foreigners and companies. So with this longer 10-year MOP, it will be a deterrent to buyers who are buying EC with the intention to exit soon after the MOP, which is currently 5 years. But now they are set back by 5 more years. And as we know, buyers usually enjoy good profits, which allow them to upgrade to a better location or a bigger private unit. So with the new ruling, they can't exit earlier. They have to wait for 10 years. So this group of buyers may either rush to secure a unit in the 5 upcoming ECs which are not under the new ruling, or they may switch to private resale or new launch. Then from year 6 to year 10, there will be a gap of newly MOP ECs. Of course, there are other earlier batches of MOP ECs, still relatively new, but if a resale buyer wants freshly MOP, there are only the 5 not under the new rulings. So we can expect them to be highly sought after, being the newest MOP ECs. So this will mean that demand for the 5 upcoming ECs, private resale or new launch, will go up due to the 10-year MOP and a gap in the supply of newly MOP ECs. When demand goes up, consequently, prices go up. So second timers quota cut from 30% to 10% with the new measure. So this means that on booking day, as soon as 10% of the units have been sold to second timers, those second timers still in the queue can't buy anymore. They have to wait for 2 years before they can buy any remaining units left. So just think about it. You're a second timer ready to buy, get a ballot number, and on booking day, while waiting for your turn, the 10% quota is met. You can't buy. Would you wait 2 years to come back to buy the remaining units, or would you look for alternative? I think many buyers who are eager and ready to buy may just look for alternatives. Let's use some figures to have a sense of what might happen. So in current EC launch, on the day of the launch, sales for first timers are usually between 30 to 40%, and to second timers, 30% quota is usually maxed out, and the second timers will have to come back after 1 month. So we can say that on the opening day sale, about 70% of the units will be sold, and the balance sales will be available to second timers only after 1 month. But of course, between the launch day to the 1 month, first timers can continue to buy. So most ECs are sold between 80 to 100%. Now with the new ruling going forward, future EC launch, we foresee that first timers will still be around 30 to 40%, because while the quota is raised for them, maybe a lot of them do not want to wait for the 10-year MOP and they might not go into the new ECs. So let's say first timers, 30 to 40% of the sale. Second timers is reduced to 10% quota. So we can see that opening day sale might be around 50%, and the balance sale will be 2 years or later for the second timers. And of course, in between again, first timers can continue to buy. So what would be the impact on these second timers? Will they wait, or will they go to resale or new launch? So what can these buyers switch to buy? With EC new launch reaching almost 1,900 PSF, buyers can easily switch to resale EC that's between 1,004 to 2,000 PSF, or OCR resale that's between 1,009 to 2,700. Or they can even go to OCR new launch that's selling around 2,400 PSF. And these can be projects like Canberra Crescent, Nara, Elta, or Cassia, which are selling between 1,009 to 2,001 PSF. Or they can top up a little and upgrade to RCR, where there are some projects selling in the 2,200 range. Then what is the implication here? With affected buyers switching to existing new launches, developers for these launches also know that their remaining units will start to move and will capitalize on this to increase prices. And in fact, this has already started. Canberra Residences increased prices on 15 May, Nara on 1st June, and Costa Cabana EC sold more than 20 units since the announcement on 8th May. So those non-affected buyers who are still sitting on the fence, thinking whether to enter the market or not, will find themselves paying more and having less choices by the time they decide to take action. So if we look at the longer term impact, there's actually some benefits. So EC developers can generally launch units for sale 15 months after the land tender award date, or after the completion of foundation works, whichever is earlier. So 15 months plus about 2 weeks of preview, then launch, plus 2 years of wait out period for the second timers. All in, we are talking about 3.5 years later. By the time the second timers are allowed to buy, it's almost TOP. I think it benefits the second timers or even the first timers too, because they can buy and move in immediately without having to wait for construction, and during the 3.5 years, they may be waiting for their flat to reach MOP, or they may still be saving up. So it's actually not a bad thing. And 3.5 years down the road, no one is going to remember this new ruling anymore, because you know how we are always reacting immediately, and after that it's just another measure and we forget about it. So in the end, I think it can benefit buyers in this sense. Then next, the removal of deferred payment scheme. So let me explain a bit more in case you're not familiar with this. So DPS is commonly used for second timers who do not want to service 2 loans at the same time, or they do not have sufficient cash and CPF on top of the loan they can secure, but they own a HDB flat which can be sold to top up the difference nearer to TOP. So now that DPS is removed, there is only normal payment scheme, NPS, which is like the same payment scheme as a private residential purchase, except that for EC purchase, the loan assessment is based on mortgage servicing ratio, MSR, like HDB flat purchase. So, since DPS is used mainly by second timers, and with the change to 10% quota, these second timers may switch to private resale or new launch, and when they do that, their loan assessment is based on TDSR and no longer MSR. This will actually result in a higher borrowing power. Let's do an example to see the difference. So we have this couple, age 40 and 38. So their weighted average age is 39, and both of them are earning 8,000 income per month each. That makes a total of 16,000, and their contribution to CPF is 1,680. So total is 3,360. So based on their combined income and using the TDSR calculation based on MAS 4%, they are able to loan up to 1.7 million, which means they can buy a property value of up to 2.27 million. So versus MSR, if they were to use the MSR calculation, they will only be able to loan 930K, which means they can buy a property value of 1.24 million. So we can see that based on the income for this couple, simply because of the difference in loan assessment between TDSR and MSR, the property price they can purchase changes significantly. So with a 2.27 million budget, there are actually quite a number of 3-bedrooms choices that this buyer can have in the current new launch market. Having looked at the implications of the new measures, at the end of the day, I think the biggest impact will be on developer. In the long term, developers will need to be more cautious on their land bids for future EC sites and potentially bid lower. They know they will take longer to sell because 90% will be first timers. So launch day sale likely will be lower. They will need to price their units sensitively to cater to these first timers. So in the short term, the upcoming 5 ECs with almost 2,000 units and remaining stock in projects like Costa Cabana EC will likely be snatched up, as buyers know that it's their last chance to buy under the 5-year MOP, and especially second timers know their chances of buying is greatly reduced by the 10% quota. So as mentioned, the 5 upcoming ECs not affected by the new measures are likely to see very good demand from buyers, especially second timers. So estimated launch prices will be from 1,750 PSF onwards. Developers know that these projects will sell well or sell out. So they are unlikely to launch cheap even if their land cost is low. But even if they are expensive, buyer will still buy, right? Because it's the last chance before the new measures kicked in. So to summarize what we have discussed so far, buyers in general, whether first or second timers, may turn to private resale or new launch. And with a gap in supply of newly MOP ECs at the beginning, demand will be driven to existing resale MOP ECs and the 5 upcoming ECs. Developers will take longer to sell a new EC project in future and need to price sensitively, but buyers can buy balanced unit closer to TOP. So to conclude, I leave you with this thought whether the new measures are a good thing or a bad thing. But in my opinion, I think it's good because the government is watching this segment and they are trying to keep the prices in check. So DM me with your thoughts or feel free to reach out if you need any help, clarification or discussion. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share if you find this video useful. This is Belle Tan signing off. I catch you in the next episode. Bye.